You think it's love, that electric feeling, the intense eye contact, the way they see you. It feels like destiny. But according to Carl Jung, it might not be love at all. It might be your unhealed wound, calling out for attention. Jung believed that we don't fall in love with people randomly. We fall in love with people who embody the parts of us we've repressed, the traits we've disowned, the emotions we've buried, the pain we've never processed. In other words, we fall in love with our shadow. Imagine this. You grow up suppressing anger, told that being assertive is too much. Then one day, you meet someone who is bold, confident, even aggressive. You feel drawn to them, obsessed even. Why? Because they're carrying the part of you that you've locked away. This is what Jung called projection. When we place parts of our unconscious mind onto someone else, we don't fall for them. We fall for what they represent inside us. And this is where things get dangerous. Because if you don't recognize that what you're really seeking is your own missing piece, you'll become addicted to the person instead. You'll chase them, idolize them. And then, when they fail to complete you, when they disappoint you or betray you, you'll feel shattered. But the pain isn't just heartbreak. It's the crash of a fantasy, the realization that no one can heal what you haven't faced in yourself. So yes, you might fall in love with someone who will destroy you. But it's not because you're broken. It's because your soul is trying to get your attention. Ask yourself, what do I admire or obsess over in the people I fall for? Are those traits missing in me? What if the person I'm drawn to is just a mirror, showing me who I've abandoned inside myself? Until you reclaim your shadow, you'll keep falling for it. And it will keep breaking you until you wake up. Let's talk about chemistry. That fire, that tension, that pulse in your chest when you see them. It feels like magic. But according to Carl Jung, it could be a trap. We're taught to trust attraction, to believe that strong feelings mean strong connection. But Jung flips the script. He says those intense attractions often point to unconscious complexes, inner wounds from your past that haven't healed. Here's how it works. Let's say you had a parent who was emotionally unavailable. You spent your childhood chasing their love, always hoping, never quite receiving. Fast forward to adulthood. You meet someone emotionally distant, aloof, hard to read, and you feel hooked. That's not chemistry. That's your inner child trying to rewrite the story. You're not drawn to them because they're good for you. You're drawn to them because they feel familiar. And part of you believes, if I can get love from them, I'll finally be enough. But this is a dangerous game. Because when you confuse trauma for love, you build your relationships on instability. You mistake the intensity of the feeling for the depth of the connection. Jung would say, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That means until you recognize the pattern, you'll keep repeating it. Different faces, same heartbreak. So what can you do? First, get curious about your attractions. Why do I feel such a strong pull toward this person? Does this dynamic feel new or strangely familiar? Am I seeking love or reliving my wounds? Second, pause before acting on chemistry. The stronger the pull, the more important it is to slow down. Because real love isn't chaotic. It's not a roller coaster. It's peace, stability, growth. Start noticing the difference between love and addiction, between connection and craving, between soul recognition and trauma reenactment. Because not every spark is safe. Some fires are only meant to burn away your illusions. Carl Jung believed that inside each of us lives a second figure. For men, it's the anima, the inner feminine. For women, it's the animus, the inner masculine. These inner images are built from our early experiences, the way our parents treated us, the stories we were told about love, power, and gender. And here's the wild part. We don't just carry these inner figures. We project them onto the people we fall in love with. So when a man falls obsessively for a woman, it may not be her he's in love with. It may be his anima, his own unconscious longing for emotional depth, intuition, and vulnerability. And when a woman finds herself drawn to a dominant, mysterious man, she may be seeing her animus, the part of her that craves confidence, direction, and freedom. The problem? When you fall for your projection, you're not relating to the real person. You're relating to a symbol. And sooner or later, the symbol collapses. The goddess becomes a flawed human. The hero becomes a man with shadows. Jung says this collapse is necessary. It's how we grow. We fall in love with our projections, so we can reclaim the parts of ourselves we've disowned. But most people resist this. They cling to the fantasy. They resent their partner for not living up to the image. And that's when things fall apart. The path forward? Recognize that who you're falling for is really you. Your unlived potential. Your suppressed traits. Your forgotten power. And once you integrate those parts, you stop needing someone else to carry them for you. Ask yourself, what ideal do I chase in romantic partners? What do they seem to have that I feel I don't? How can I develop those qualities within myself? True love begins when projection ends. When you stop asking someone else to complete you and start becoming whole on your own. There's a reason some people feel dangerously attractive. They stir something in you, something forbidden, raw, electric. They make you feel alive, but also on edge. It's as if they see into your soul, but only the parts you've tried to bury. That's the shadow lover. According to Carl Jung, the shadow isn't just the negative side of your personality. It's every part of you you've been told not to be. Too needy, too sexual, too angry, too emotional, too ambitious. You repress these parts to be accepted. And one day, you meet someone who embodies all of them. They're bold, reckless, unapologetic. They live the life you were afraid to live, and you fall hard. But what you're falling for isn't just the person. You're falling for your unlived self. Jung teaches us that we attract partners who mirror our shadow, not to punish us, but to awaken us, to force us to confront what we've disowned. The shadow lover is irresistible because they offer a shortcut to wholeness. They carry what you lack, but they also carry chaos, because the shadow, when projected onto someone else, is volatile. You'll feel obsessed, possessed, unable to let go, even when the relationship is clearly destructive. This is why people stay in toxic love. Not because they're weak, but because their soul is trying to integrate something powerful, something buried. So what do? You reclaim what the shadow lover represents. If you're drawn to their freedom, ask, where have I denied my own? If you crave their chaos, ask, where am I too controlled? If you envy their intensity, ask, where have I numbed my passion? Because once you own your shadow, you no longer need someone else to carry it. Who in your life has felt dangerously magnetic? What qualities did they embody that you've rejected in yourself? Are you ready to become your own fire instead of burning in someone else's? You've heard people say, I don't know why I can't leave them. It just feels like fate. But Jung would ask, is it fate? Or is it a trauma bond? A trauma bond forms when love and pain are wired together in your nervous system, when chaos feels like connection, when emotional roller coasters feel like home. And it often starts in childhood. If your first experiences of love involved unpredictability, rejection, or abandonment, you'll unconsciously seek those same patterns as an adult. Not because you like them, but because they feel familiar. Familiarity is safety to the unconscious, and your psyche will recreate painful dynamics until they are finally made conscious. So when you meet someone who triggers your abandonment wound, when the highs are euphoric and the lows are devastating, when leaving feels like death, you might tell yourself it's meant to be, but it's not destiny. It's a loop. Jung says, we don't solve our problems. We outgrow them. And to outgrow a trauma bond, you have to face the wound it's built on. That means asking the hard questions. What part of me believes love must hurt? Who first taught me that emotional unavailability was normal? What am I chasing? Love or validation? The truth is, breaking a trauma bond feels like losing a piece of yourself. But what you're really losing is the illusion that pain is love. And in its place, you create space for real intimacy, the kind that's grounded, nourishing, and honest. Write down the most intense relationship you've had. Now list the emotions you felt most often. Ask yourself, did I feel loved or addicted? Until you see the pattern, it owns you. Once you see it, you can break it and choose better. When we fall in love with a story. Not just the person in front of us, but what they represent. Hope, escape, redemption, completion. Carl Jung called this inflation. We inflate the other person with godlike qualities. They'll save us, heal us, make us whole. But love built on fantasy is fragile, because eventually the fantasy shatters. You discover they're not a mind reader. They disappoint you. They trigger your fears. They reveal their flaws. And suddenly, the dream turns to dust. This is the moment most people leave, or self-destruct. But Jung said this is actually where real love begins. Why? Because now, you're no longer relating to a fantasy. You're relating to a human being. And that transition is painful. It feels like a death. The death of the perfect partner. The death of the ideal romance. The death of who you thought you were in love. But love that survives this death becomes something deeper. It's no longer about completion. It's about conscious connection. It's two whole people choosing to love, without illusion. This is the gift of Jungian awareness. You start seeing where your projections have distorted reality. And in seeing clearly, you begin to love clearly. Think of a relationship where the fantasy collapsed. What illusion were you holding on to? What truth emerged when it ended? What did that experience teach you about yourself? The end of the fantasy is not the end of love. It's the start of something real. Most people don't fall in love with a person. They fall in love with an idea, an image, a hope, a narrative they carry in their unconscious. Carl Jung believed that until we bring those projections to the surface, we'll never truly see the other person, and we'll never truly be seen ourselves. Projections are sneaky. They feel so real. You believe she's the nurturing goddess you've always dreamed of, or he's the powerful savior who will fix everything wrong in your life. But what you're really seeing is you, your longings, your unmet needs, your wounds, your hopes. So what happens when the projection begins to fade? You start noticing the details, the way they avoid difficult conversations, the inconsistencies in their stories, the subtle ways they pull away when you get too close. At first, you feel betrayed. Not because they changed, but because they stopped fitting your fantasy. This is the turning point. Jung teaches us that if we can stay with the discomfort, if we resist the urge to blame or idealize, we can enter a new level of relationship, one built on presence, not projection. Presence is messy. It's raw. It means seeing the other not as your missing half, but as a full, flawed, magnificent human. And that takes courage, because presence demands that we also face ourselves, not the mask we wear to be loved, but the truth of who we are when the mask slips. Real love, Jung would say, is not fusion, it's not obsession, it's the meeting of two sovereign souls who no longer use each other to complete their own inner lack. So how do you move from projection to presence? Start by asking, what did I believe this person would give me? What parts of myself did I project onto them? Who are they truly when I strip away the fantasy? And then, the harder question, who am I without their reflection? You may find that what you thought was love was a cry for something deeper. Validation, belonging, a sense of identity. And as you meet that need within yourself, the projection fades, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Now you have a choice to love the person in front of you, not for who you wanted them to be, but for who they really are. And that is the beginning of intimacy. Make a list of the traits you admired most in a past partner. Now ask, are these qualities I feel disconnected from in myself? If yes, can I begin to develop them instead of outsourcing them to someone else? Love becomes real when illusion dies. But what's left behind is something far more powerful than fantasy. It's truth. And truth is where love can finally breathe. If you fall in love with people who destroy you, Carl Jung wouldn't tell you to stop loving. He'd tell you to go deeper, into yourself, into the unconscious material driving your choices. Because underneath every pattern is a message, and underneath every heartbreak is an invitation, become whole. For Jung, the goal of human life isn't perfection, it's individuation, the process of integrating all the parts of yourself, light and dark, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious. But most people try to outsource this integration to relationships. They believe, if I find the right person, I'll feel whole. But this belief is the seed of suffering, because no one can carry your unlived life for you. No one can balance the scales of your inner world. That's your work. So what does it mean to integrate your love and your shadow? It means recognizing that you've denied parts of yourself to be accepted. You've chased love from those who reflect your own self-rejection. You've mistaken chaos for passion because peace felt unfamiliar. It also means choosing to reclaim what you've abandoned. If you fear rejection, you begin to offer yourself unconditional acceptance. If you long for someone to see you, you learn to witness yourself with compassion. If you've avoided anger or desire, you learn to sit with it, not act it out through another person, but feel it fully and let it teach you. This is the inner marriage Jung spoke of, the union of opposites within the psyche. When you do this, something radical shifts. You stop needing someone else to save you. You stop falling for those who harm you. Because you are no longer split inside. You are no longer outsourcing your power. And suddenly, you attract differently. Not from desperation, but from alignment. Not from emptiness, but from abundance. This is the transformation Jung pointed toward, where every heartbreak becomes sacred, where every wound becomes wisdom, where love is no longer about escape, but expansion. Look at your romantic history. What patterns repeat? What emotions dominate? What are these stories trying to show you about yourself? When you face your inner world with honesty and love, you stop repeating destructive relationships. You begin choosing partners, not to complete you, but to grow with you. That's what it means to love from wholeness. Conscious love isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right self. And that shift changes everything. Carl Jung taught that love, when unconscious, is a battlefield. It's projection, wounding, fantasy, control. But when we make love conscious, it becomes something sacred. You begin to ask, am I loving this person or my idea of them? Am I here to grow or to escape? Do I see them clearly, or am I trying to fix my past through them? These questions are the gateway to conscious connection. In conscious love, you don't fall, you choose. You choose to see the other as they are, not as you wish them to be. You choose to speak truth, even when it risks comfort. You choose to stay, not because you can't live without them, but because your life is better with them in it. And that is a profound difference. Conscious love is slow. It's patient. It doesn't rush to declare soulmates. It doesn't get swept away by intensity. Instead, it honors process, depth, reality. You learn to hold space for your own wounds and theirs. You stop trying to fix the other, and instead, you witness. You become curious, not controlling, supportive, not dependent. And when conflict arises, because it always does, you don't run. You don't weaponize. You see it as an opportunity to understand something deeper about both of you. This is what Jung meant by relationship as a path of individuation. It's not that love becomes easy. It becomes meaningful. Because now, Love isn't about finding someone to take away your pain. It's about walking alongside someone who helps you meet it with courage. What would it look like to love with open eyes? To bring your whole self into relationship, not just the parts you think are lovable? To choose someone not out of fear of loneliness, but from a place of inner fullness? That is conscious love. And once you taste it, the old patterns, the ones based in projection, addiction, destruction, no longer appeal. You've seen something greater. You've become something deeper. And that depth changes who you are, forever. By now, you've seen the pattern. The magnetic pull toward the person who will unravel you. The whirlwind of intensity. The crash. The shame. And the quiet voice that asks, "Why do I keep doing this?" Carl Jung wouldn't ask you to suppress that voice. He'd ask you to listen to it deeply, because that voice is the beginning of transformation. Jung believed the psyche has one mission, to become whole. And if that means loving the wrong people until the lesson becomes loud enough, so be it. If it means shattering over and over until you finally see your own reflection in the debris, so be it. This is the alchemy of the heart. In alchemy, transformation comes through fire. The base metal must burn to become gold. And in Jungian psychology, the fire is often found in love. Not the easy kind, but the kind that scorches, exposes, and humbles you. You fall in love with someone who awakens your shadow. You get addicted to their attention, their rejection, their mystery. You abandon your self-worth for the illusion of being chosen. And then, the breaking point, the betrayal, the loss, the silence. Your identity collapses, your illusion dies. But something else is born. Clarity. The pain teaches you where your wounds still bleed. It reveals your hunger for validation. It shows you where you still don't believe you are enough on your own. And if you're brave enough to sit with that pain, not escape it, something miraculous happens. The same love that destroyed you becomes the key to your freedom. The pattern becomes the portal. The heartbreak becomes the healer. This is what Jung meant by turning suffering into meaning. So no, you're not broken because you love the wrong person. You're not foolish for getting caught in the loop. You were learning, you were integrating, you were becoming whole. And now, you're ready for more. To love from your center, not your wounds. To see others clearly and be seen in return. To stop chasing intensity and start choosing intimacy. Because when you've made peace with your shadow, when you've stopped fearing your own depth, you no longer fall in love with destruction. You fall in love with reflection, with resonance, with the one who meets your wholeness with their own. Look at your past relationships and ask yourself, not what went wrong, but what they taught you. What patterns were trying to reveal themselves? What parts of you were trying to come back home? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you heal it, you never go back. You don't fall in love with the one who destroys you by accident. You're pulled toward them because your soul is ready to evolve. And when you stop blaming the other, when you finally turn inward, that's where the true healing begins. Carl Jung showed us that love is the most powerful force for transformation, but only when we use it as a mirror, not a mask. So if this message hit you deeply, if you saw yourself in these words, don't just scroll away. Take a moment right now and ask, what am I ready to leave behind? What kind of love do I want to create next? And if you're serious about your evolution, hit that subscribe button, because this journey doesn't end here. Leave a comment below. What's one lesson you've learned from loving the wrong person? Someone out there is waiting to read your words, and maybe even be healed by them. This isn't just a video. It's a doorway. Welcome to your new chapter.